Now we have with us Dr. Ramalakshmi Garu, a senior IFS forest officer. మన ఇండియాలోనే ప్రథమ మహిళా ఫారెస్ట్ ఆఫీసర్ గా డిస్టింక్షన్ ఉంది. అంతకుముందు ఎవరు ఐఎఫ్ఎస్ క్యాడర్లు ఎవరు లేరు. మన ఆంధ్రప్రదేశ్ లో కానీ, తెలంగాణలో కానీ, ఇండియాలో కానీ ఎక్కడ లేరు. ఫస్ట్ టైం షీ జాయిన్డ్ యాజ్ ఐఎఫ్ఎస్ ఆఫీసర్ ఇన్ ద క్యాడర్ ఆఫ్ ఫారెస్ట్ సర్వీస్. మేడం చాలా ఇందిరా క్రాంతి పథము, తర్వాత వేరియస్ ఇన్స్టిట్యూషన్స్ కూడా చాలా పెద్ద పదవుల్లో ఉన్నారు. ఫారెస్ట్ బయోడైవర్సిటీ కోసము, ఫారెస్ట్ గవర్నెన్స్ కోసము చాలా వర్క్ చేసిండ్రు. ఎలాబరేట్ బయోడేటా ఉంటది కానీ ఇన్ కన్సైజ్ వీ కాంట్ సే ఇన్ దిస్ టైమ్. Madam, we request your gracious presence and we request your words, valuable words in this occasion, madam. Thank you.
Thank you. Andarki namaskaram andi. Very good morning to everybody. First of all, I would like to convey my heartfelt congratulations and thanks to Center for Council for Green Revolution. Meek andarki kuda congratulations. You have completed 10 years, 1 decade of very successful work, and your work in the areas of conducting awareness programs, besides participating in a big way, especially awareness among the students, and also encouraging tree plantations and taking up tree plantations with the help of students is commendable. And moreover, I also have read a report on the Eastern Ghats covering 5 states, a wonderful report, a world-class report you have brought in. And you are doing a lot of good work. Today, I feel it is my privilege, and I'm very happy to be a part of the environmental celebrations conducted by the Council for Green Revolution. Today, I have a news. I read a news in the morning that India stands, India ranks 168 position out of 180 countries. A report as far as the environmental performance index is concerned, our rank is somewhat low. This is a cause of concern, and this also shows how much work we need to put up to improve the environment. First of all, when I think of environment as a forester and also a natural resources manager and also a green activist, the first thing that comes to my mind is the Panchabhutas. Panchabhutas, we are very much connected to Panchabhutas as human beings. We cannot live without Panchabhutas. The earth, the sky, air, water, and fire. We are very closely connected with these Panchabhutas for our existence. Nature gives us lot of supplies. Nature gives us greenery, nature gives us water, nature gives us soils, nature gives us crops, many things. But today, somehow as human beings, we are thinking that everything comes free from nature. Unless and until we appreciate the value of things nature is providing, unless we appreciate and put a value, perhaps we will not be able to conserve it. Because as human beings, anything which is not measurable, which doesn't have a price, is not cared for. That's why the degradation of nature takes place. If you take up, am I audible, please?
Audible.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. If we take, actually, in India, we have only 20% or 23% of the forest area. As a student of forestry, right, in 1980s, I used to, they used to teach me India should have 1/3 of the land area under forest. But, because of development, the area under greenery is taking a heavy toll. Today, we really have very little area left under very thick forest. That's why we are not able to really get the environmental benefits we are expected to get. It is a fact that our rivers are drying up, our rivers are getting polluted, the soils are depleted, and there are a lot of crop losses, and there are also a lot of damages. Nature is, nature gives us pleasure. Nature also gives us pain. Recently, we have experienced two big cyclones, Amphan cyclone and Nisarga. These kind of calamities, these kind of disasters take a heavy toll. As far as the economic losses are concerned, they run into millions and billions of, billions of rupees. So that's why to save nature, we need to create an environment which is green, clean, and serene, and sustainable. To create that kind of an environment, we need to appreciate the value of nature. Today, if you take, the economists put a price for everything. The economists and the environmentalists put a price on a single tree. A single tree, a 50 years old tree, not tree means, we can't really take small plants. We have to take a 50 years tree having a good crown and a root system and a trunk, gives something like 14 lakhs worth oxygen. And it also gives 16 lakhs worth of water in its lifetime. It also cleans 28 lakhs worth carbon dioxide and other pollutants from the atmosphere. So if you take roughly, all the benefits that are given by a single tree, it runs into something like 58 lakhs. But if you just sell a tree, how much does it cost? It hardly costs maybe 500 rupees, maybe 500 rupees, maybe 5,000 rupees. This is what we need to appreciate. Not only the economic benefits, the ecological benefits, the trees and the forests provide. They provide a lot of ecosystem services. World over, if you want to go on a tourism, where do we go? We go to a place which is clean, green, and also very peaceful without any pollution. Do we put any value when we go on to a tourist place? We pay airfares, we pay train fares, we pay for hotels, we pay for everything, but we don't put any value to the nature we all enjoy. That is what is required today. We need to appreciate, we need to give a value to what the nature is providing. Besides providing so many services and benefits to humans, especially, the forests provide a lot of livelihoods to the tribal people. If you take the forest wealth, for a national GDP, the forests provide only 7% of the GDP. That's why the forest doesn't really get very good, much investments. But if you take, the GDP of the poor people, forest provides 7% of the GDP to the poor people. That means if the forests are not there, people are going to become poorer and poorest. This is what we need to appreciate. Millions of people, poor people, tribal people, their livelihoods depend on forests. Tribals respect forests. I myself have seen while traveling in the forests in Adilabad districts, the tribal women especially, they don't go to forests during their menstrual times. They don't even touch the trees. That means they regard trees as gods. Only certain times, they have a muhurat to go and tap the non-timber forest products, and they feel that the forest is their mandir, their temple, their church, or their mosque. And forests are, worshipped, they are regarded, they understand the value of the forest. Especially the tribal women today, if we go to the forest areas, millions of tribal women all over India, they collect the non-timber forest products, especially during the summer season. The Tendupata collection gives them something like 10 to 15,000 rupees in a span of 2 or 3 months. This is what we need to appreciate. Nowadays, if you take the ecosystems, especially the states having, India is having vast coastline, both on the west and the eastern side. We have a very long coastline, but unfortunately, the Mada forests, the mangrove forests, which exist all along the coast, and they also protect the inlands from the effect of cyclones. Today, if you see and travel along the coast, you see a lot of deforestation, lot of removal of these mangrove forests is taking place. With the result, whatever damages that happens, during the cyclones, it hits directly the humans, and millions of rupees of damages are happening, which are irreversible. Because of this aquaculture and unplanned aquaculture, especially in the coastal areas and also in the mangrove areas, if you take, the public are put at a loss. There is a loss for the public, but there is a big private gain. Do we encourage this? Instead, we need to convert this aquaculture or the pisciculture as a sustainable proposition so that there is a win-win situation. Both the public sector and also the private sector thrives. And coming to the urban areas, if you look at a tree, any tree in Hyderabad, take a look at it, you see a shop, a tea shop, or a vegetable vendor, or a barber, or somebody doing some occupation under the shade of the tree. If we count all the livelihoods of trees in Hyderabad city alone, it will be something like, you can see at least 2 or 3 lakh people getting livelihoods under a tree. So we need to take into consideration when we are cutting trees in the cities, we need to take into consideration not only we are depriving the cities the ecological benefits, we are also depriving livelihoods to the urban poor. This is the situation. I suggest that the college students, you take up a survey of all the trees in the Hyderabad city and make a list of the livelihoods that are providing and how much each family is getting out of the livelihood under a tree. It is a survey worthwhile taking. That's how we have to create awareness by showing examples, live examples, to improve the environment. Root cause of all the problems is man is very selfish. We are seeing the worst crime is committed on animals. The elephant, the way in which the elephant was murdered in Kerala, we all have seen, day before yesterday, and there is a lot of public awareness towards this cruelty against animals we need to avoid. Biodiversity is not a fashionable word. It talks about the interaction between human beings and living organisms, and also to some extent non-living organisms. Why I include non-living organisms in the biodiversity is for a reason. In the city of Hyderabad, we have good rocks. Hyderabad city is so beautiful. If at all the rocks in the surrounding areas are preserved. But, we are cutting the rocks senselessly in a very unplanned manner. With the result, what happens? Hyderabad is becoming a very earthquake-prone zone. And also the beauty of Hyderabad is going up day by day because all the beautiful trees and the rocks are cut. And, if the rocks are cut, if the mining takes place, the rivers, the streams are not going to flow. The streams make, a lifeline for human beings. They are not going to flow. We need to be mindful about rocks, about the streams, about the trees, about the soil and everything. All this put together makes a wonderful ecosystem. If you see the city of Hyderabad, which was full of lakes at one time, is now subjected to a lot of encroachments, and the real estate boom has killed, made most of the lakes disappear. With the result, the city which was water sufficient at one time now has to import water from a distance of 300 to 400 kilometers. These are all, very unsustainable practices. We have to, be careful about, and we have to avoid these unsustainable practices. So, when we talk about ethics, environmental ethics, that is something which comes to my immediate mind is that all of us and most of us, we come from the rural backgrounds. Let us look at how our great grandfathers and grandfathers have lived in the villages. Every village is a very self-sustainable, self-sufficient unit. They have a water, they have a pond for water. Everybody keeps that pond neat and clean. They draw water from the pond. There is a separate pond for washing animals. There is also, when they plant trees, our ancestors, they saw to it the trees giving fruits, the trees giving shade, fruits for birds, shade for travelers are planted. Today, we are planting trees on the road margins. No doubt they are serving the aesthetic purpose, but really we are not putting fruit trees with the fear that if the fruit trees are planted, either the fruits are taken away or the tree is cut. We have the fear because man is becoming more and more selfish. We need to shift from this anthropogenic centricity to ecocentric and biocentric. We have to care more for the living organisms. We have to care more for the ecosystems. As long as we remain extremely selfish and wanted to draw everything from nature, this kind of degeneration will continue to happen. Today, that's why today, on the eve of the Environmental Day, I would like to urge upon all of you that these services from the nature are adequate. Nature is Mother Earth. Nature is a feminine principle. Like Mother, nature gives you all services, whatever you want, according to your needs. But nature cannot give according to your greed. That's why we have to care for nature, to draw the services. We have to protect nature. That's why I would like to end this conversation by saying, like Hindus and Indians, we all believe in dharma. Dharmo raksho rakshitaha. Similarly, vriksho raksho rakshitaha. You save trees, trees will save you forever. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, madam. You have given a vast and elaborate detail on this nature's scope and its immense value, intrinsic and eccentric and its spiritual value. And it's really, we have to think upon from this World Environment Day. As you said, ecosystem services of the nature are very essential. Otherwise, our survival will be at the stake. Thank you, madam, for sparing a valuable time. We take your words as inspiration and we will implement the programs upon this kind of things, madam. Thank you. Thank you. Madam, please tell me. Madam Chapan, madam, you're saying something.
Thank you all very much. Wish you all a very purposeful environment.
Thank you, madam. Thank you. Thank you for joining us, for giving this opening message. If anybody can raise hands, madam will answer one or two questions quickly because there are so many other speakers. If anybody, one or two very quick questions before she leaves for another schedule. Thank you. Madam, Padma madam.
Yes, Andy.
Madam, you want to ask something to Ramalakshmi madam?
Yes.
Please ask, madam.
ఇప్పుడు మనము ఫారెస్ట్ గ్రీనరీ ఇదంతా మాట్లాడుతున్నాం. ఫారెస్ట్ పాలసీలో డైవర్సిటీ గురించి, తర్వాత డైవర్సిఫైడ్ వైల్డ్ యానిమల్స్ గురించి, ఏ రకమైన ఫుడ్ సెక్యూరిటీ గురించి ఫారెస్ట్ డిపార్ట్మెంట్ కానీ ఫారెస్ట్ నర్సరీస్ కానీ ప్లాన్ చేస్తున్నాయి మేడం. ఓన్లీ ప్లాంటేషన్ గురించి ప్లాన్ చేస్తున్నారు తప్ప ఆ డైవర్సిటీ అనేది చాలా తక్కువ ఉంది మేడం. సో దాన్ని ఎలా మనం ముందుకు తీసుకురాగలుగుతాం అనేది ఫారెస్ట్ డిపార్ట్మెంట్ రికమెండేషన్స్ మీరు ఇవ్వాలి. మీలాంటి ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ ఉన్న వాళ్ళు ఇంకా సజెస్ట్ చేయాల్సిన అవసరం అయితే ఉన్నట్టు.
పద్మ గారు నమస్కారం అమ్మా. చాలా మంచి పాయింట్ చెప్పారు మీరు. మీతో నేను పూర్తిగా ఏకీభవిస్తున్నాను. ఎందుకంటే మనం ప్రతి సంవత్సరం కూడా ప్రతి గవర్నమెంట్ కూడా కోట్ల మొక్కలు మేము పెంచుతున్నాము, కోట్ల మొక్కలు నాటుతున్నాము అని చెప్పేసేసి వన మహోత్సవాలని రకరకాల ప్రోగ్రామ్స్ కింద మనం చేస్తున్నాము. ఎంత చేసినా కూడా ఈ ప్లాంటేషన్స్ అనేవి ఎప్పుడు కూడా న్యాచురల్ ఫారెస్ట్ కి మనం కంపేర్ చేయలేం. ఎందుకంటే న్యాచురల్ ఫారెస్ట్ లో చాలా బెనిఫిట్స్ వస్తాయి. వాటరు, సాయిల్, పొల్యూషన్ చెక్, ఇవన్నీ బెనిఫిట్స్ ఏవైతే వస్తాయో మనకి కేవలం ఈ ప్లాంటేషన్స్ ద్వారా రావు. ఈ మధ్య మీరు హైదరాబాద్ చుట్టుపక్కల ప్రాంతాల్లో ముఖ్యమంత్రి గారి జ్యూరిస్డిక్షన్ ఏరియాలో ఒక 400 హెక్టార్ల డిగ్రేడెడ్ ఫారెస్ట్ ని కేవలం ఒక సంవత్సరం దాన్ని అంటే దాంట్లో క్యాటిల్ కానీ వేరే ఏ రకమైన ఇంటర్ఫిరెన్స్ లేకుండా చేసినందువల్ల అది మళ్ళీ ఒరిజినల్ గా న్యాచురల్ ఫారెస్ట్ గా వచ్చేసేసింది. ఇప్పుడు మనం చేయవలసింది ఏమిటంటే ఏదైతే న్యాచురల్ ఫారెస్ట్ ఉందో, ఏదైతే డిగ్రేడెడ్ ఫారెస్ట్ ఉందో దానికి కనుక మనం రెస్ట్ ఇస్తే, జస్ట్ మనం ఏదైతే మనం కోవిడ్ లో మనం అందరం లాక్డౌన్ లో ఎలా ఉన్నామో అలాగే దాన్ని కూడా లాక్డౌన్ చేసినట్లయితే ఒక ఏడాది పాటు అది మళ్ళీ తిరిగి న్యాచురల్ ఫారెస్ట్ గా అవడానికి అవకాశం ఉంటుంది. అలాంటి ఫారెస్ట్లే మనకు కావాల్సిన ఎకలాజికల్ బెనిఫిట్స్ అన్ని కూడా ఇస్తాయి. కేవలం ప్లాంటేషన్స్ అనేవి మనకి ఎకనామిక్ బెనిఫిట్స్ ఇస్తాయి. మనకి అవి ప్లాంటేషన్స్ కూడా కావాలి, ఎకనామిక్ బెనిఫిట్స్ ఇస్తాయి కానీ ఎకలాజికల్ బెనిఫిట్స్ ఇవ్వలేవండి. బయోడైవర్సిటీ మాటకు వస్తే ఈ సంవత్సరం ఎందుకు బయోడైవర్సిటీ అని యునైటెడ్ నేషన్స్ డిక్లేర్ చేశారు అంటే ఐజీ టార్గెట్స్, ఈ కాప్ జరిగినప్పుడల్లా కొన్ని టార్గెట్స్ ఉంటాయి. ఆ టార్గెట్స్ ప్రకారం భూశాతంలో భూమి మీద ఇంత శాతంలో ప్రొటెక్టెడ్ ఏరియాస్ ఉండాలి అంటే వాటిని ఏ రకంగా కూడా డిస్టర్బ్ చేయకూడదు. సముద్రంలో ఇంత శాతం కేవలం ఆ సముద్రంలో నివసించే జీవుల కోసం మనం ఎటువంటి డిస్టర్బెన్సెస్ లేకుండా దాన్ని అలొకేట్ చేయాలి అని కొన్ని టార్గెట్స్ ఉన్నాయి. ఈ బయోడైవర్సిటీ యొక్క ఇంపార్టెన్స్ ని గ్లోబల్ గా గ్రహించి బయోడైవర్సిటీని ఈ సంవత్సరం థీమ్ గా తీసుకోవడం జరిగింది. I totally agree with your viewpoint. We need to create more awareness. We need to work for the conservation of biodiversity. We need to protect our wildlife and wild animals. We need to regenerate the forest. These are the 3 principles, actions that are required. Thank you.